Yo, what is up, guys? Draco Shawnee, back after a month, I should say. Yeah, it's been forever. I won't go into too much details of why I haven't posted, but to summarize, it's just pretty much I've been doing other things outside, obviously, and I never really wanted. I didn't feel like doing YouTube, so I was like, okay, I'll just take a break. And now I kind of in the mood to do YouTube. Maybe because it's getting close to Christmas. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I'm excited. So yeah, let's talk about what I want to talk about, which is in the title. Now, I was thinking about talking about all the other chapters between the chapters that I haven't reviewed yet, but I couldn't be asked to do them because like some of those chapters have already kind of had plot points which have been resolved, or things that have been resolved kind of. So there's not really to talk about with them. But I can always, if in the future, I can always talk about those chapters and my thoughts on them. I can always come back and reread it. But anyway, we're talking about two chapters. So a chapter came out today, 1035, and I also want to talk about the previous chapter because this chapter is similar to the previous chapter. So what this is about? Well, this is a little bit of a rant. I am going to be honest. If I had to rate both this chapter 1035 and chapter 1034 out of 10, I would say it's a 4 out of 10 or 4.5. I would say 4 out of 10 for 1034, and for maybe today, like this chapter today, 1035, I would say it's like a 4.5 out of 10. Yeah, I'll explain why as well for both of them. So, and they both follow the very similar reasons. I think I can just explain them right now. So, the fight. Now, we know that Sanji versus Queen has been resolved. It's done. It's done. I know after 1034, people were saying that, you know, Queen might still be okay. And I was hoping that as well. I was hoping that Queen would still be okay and would give Sanji a good thrashing, and maybe that would continue the fight, so Sanji would have to do something else to combat Queen. That wasn't the case. Queen is down, he's out. And by the end of this chapter, King is the same. King is done and he's out. Very surprising. That is the issue. Because the thing is, with these two chapters, they are action chapters. Now, what that means is pretty much is that mainly focused on action. So we have to judge these fights. Was Sanji versus Queen and King versus Zoro, were those two good fights? And the answer is no. In my opinion, I think these two fights were handled poorly by Oda. I really do believe that. King versus Zoro was looking so promising. Like, it was looking really good until we got to this chapter. Until we got to this chapter, King versus Zoro could have been the best fight, could have been a fight on the level of Luffy versus Lucci or Luffy versus Katakuri. This fight could have been up there. But my god, Oda dropped the ball in this fight. I mean, the fight just went from a high to a low in just one chapter. And it's sad to say that, because this fight again was looking good with King overpowering Zoro for like the last couple chapters. And as the reader, you're thinking, oh wow, how is Zoro actually going to beat this guy? And then, whoa, the answer just comes in one chapter. Zoro figures it out and he just beats King. And it's just like, whatever. And by the way, yes, I do believe King has been beaten. Because again, what is the title of the chapter? The title of chapter 1035 was called Zoro versus King. Every time when we get these chapters whether it's Robin versus Black Maria, Sasaki versus Frankie, Who's Who versus Jinbei, Sanji versus Queen, they always end up with someone from the Beast Pirates being taken down. So King, yes, has been taken down, guys, which is ridiculous, I think. I don't know what Oda was thinking. Really disappointed. And this is a big deal because beating the other members of the Beast Pirates is bad, but that wasn't as bad as this. This was bad because the problem I have with this is we knew Sanji and Queen were going to fight. We knew Zoro and King were going to fight. but I thought they were going to be pushed to like an absolute limit like Luffy was. Like, I thought this was going to be their Katakuri fight, quote unquote. Like, this is going to be like the Katakuri Luffy fight, but instead it's going to be for Sanji and for Zoro. They're going to have their fight of that level. But did Oda deliver? Absolutely not. He absolutely botched it up. He didn't make Queen intimidating. He botched up that. Let's talk about Sanji versus Queen first, and then we'll get to Zoro versus King, because I want to talk about this chapter specifically as well, and last chapter. So with 1034, Queen had a lot of cool things. He had like all this tech, and it was really cool to see that he could use actually the Germa 66 ability. So he could also use Stealth Black, which is really cool. That was something that I was not expected. That was cool. But did Oda do anything good with it? No, because then Sanji was able to overcome it anyway with his quote unquote new power, which I don't like the new power up Sanji's got, but whatever. Because let's be real here, the power up of this exoskeleton thing is just an excuse, so Sanji doesn't have to use the Raid suit. It's very simple concept. Like, because Oda probably doesn't want to seem as if, oh, Sanji's just relying on the Raid suit to win every fight. So he can't get strong himself. So what did Oda do? He wrote something where he made Sanji into a Germa 66 soldier. That's simply it. That is simply it. And the fight was handled poorly. It didn't even feel like Sanji was even getting tested, despite him going up against an opponent who has a 1.32 billion berry bounty, who is a Yonko commander, and a bounty higher than Katakuri. I mean, I'm not implying that Queen is stronger than Katakuri, but to have a bounty higher than Katakuri, by a decent margin, I would say. Like, it was like, what? Because Katakuri's bounty is like 1,057,000,000, and then Queen's bounty is 1.32 billion berries. So the difference is about 200 million. So but even if you don't think Queen is stronger than Katakuri, Queen is still fairly a capable opponent. And for Sanji, even with a power-up, I'm sorry, Oda just dropped it. And it's nothing to do with Queen, in my opinion. It's the way Oda's been handling these fights. And this is a problem we're gonna come to as well, because it's been rushed. It's clearly been rushed by Oda. These fights have been all rushed by Oda. He's not taking the time to go through these fights. He's not giving the same respect as with Luffy versus Katakuri. He's not doing that. He just wants to get these fights over, done, and dusted. And that is the issue. That is 100% the issue. And I'm not the only one as well. Like, today I was looking at Brago DA's, a YouTuber. He did a live stream on the chapter today. And even he stated that these things are getting rushed. And I 100% agree with the guy. Like, it's being rushed. You can't deny it. And it's not good, in my opinion. It's not good writing. So, yeah, what an L that chapter was. Yeah. And in Queen, we weren't sure if Queen was defeated. We have our answer in this chapter. Queen was defeated. So, I mean, take it as you will, guys. It is what it is. So that's that fight. I mean, Sanji had a power up. Oh yeah, and also this thing about him hitting the woman, which never even happened. So I guess that never happened. I mean, that would have been a cool thing, but it never even happened, I guess. So it did, because that scene that happened in 1031, that good Sanji chapter, that was a good character moment for Sanji, but it didn't amount to anything in the end. So it really doesn't mean anything. Then we get to this chapter, which is slightly better. And the only reason why this chapter is slightly better is because of not even King versus Zoro. It's King, and it's this little flashback we get of King. And by the way, I'm a King fan. I love King. I like it. I love it. I've said this. I think King has the best design I've ever seen in it's one of the best designs in One Piece, at least. It's a really good design. I love his design. Even without the mask as well, we saw his design. And he looks dope. So, to sum up this whole thing, the King Kaido stuff I liked. I like that. I wish we got more of it, because it's so interesting that we get to see a young Kaido meet a young King who was there, and we find out they were both experiments. Because we always had this theory that King was like an Impel Down guard or something. Like, he was the warden of Impel Down, but it turns out he was a prisoner, actually, like Kaido. In fact, they were both prisoners. And they both escaped together. So that was pretty cool. And King gives this, and it reminds you a bit of Luffy and Zoro, how Luffy met Zoro. So that was a cool little thing that Oda did there. So that was cool. But and also it's interesting that Kaido, the way he's speaking to King as if he knows what's gonna happen. And I do, again, this is gonna lead, hopefully, to a good Kaido flashback. Because if there's one thing I trust Oda with, if it's not fights, it's writing a good backstory or flashback. He's really good at that stuff. That's what one of Oda's strengths in writing. He's so good at that stuff. So hopefully, when we get to the Kaido flashback, this stuff will all be fleshed out, and I'll be so happy. I'll be happy as hell. But yeah, I loved it. Now let's talk about King versus Zoro. Disappointing is one word. That's my one word answer, really. It's just disappointing. It's the exact same thing with Sanji versus Queen. It's being rushed by Oda. You can clearly tell this chapter. We just got King's mask. It just came off out of nowhere. We got little King flashback. And then Zoro beats King by the end of the chapter. So it just felt rushed. It felt so rushed. Like nothing, like, to be honest, I was expecting this to be Zoro's Katakuri fight. I thought the King versus Zoro fight was just getting started. And it hasn't. It's ended. It's literally just ended. King was overpowering Zoro for the last couple chapters. And oh my god. Let's talk about this silly thing I've been hearing. What I heard in this chapter. So, King has a specific weakness, right? Which is so... It's so stupid. It's so forced and contrived just to allow Zoro to win. It's just so stupid. Because to me, I saw King versus Zoro in the previous chapters as if King was just stronger and faster than Zoro. That is simple as that. There's no specific ability for King to be superior to Zoro. King is just superior to Zoro, and that is it. And Zoro has to get stronger and actually do something to put him on par with King. But in this case, what Oda does is he gives King a specific weakness, about like how he has to trade speed for defense, and it's due to his Lunarian genes or something, which is just ridiculous. That I think is silly. I'm sorry, that I think is silly. It just devalues King. It just makes King look. It just, to me, when I came out reading this chapter, I was like, has Oda just nerfed King or something? And it looks like he has. He just nerfed King. So there's a specific thing, and then Zoro has to figure it out. And so this goes back to what Zoro said in the previous chapter, that I've got to figure out what race he is, which that was just a stupid line, honestly. That was silly. To me, King was stronger than Zoro simply because King was stronger than... King was beating Zoro because King was stronger. That's it. There's no special, unique ability. It was just King... it's like with Katakuri versus Luffy. Katakuri was just simply better. And I thought that's the same thing with King, but apparently Oda wants to make it seem as if Zoro has something specific he has to take down when it comes to King. And he did it. He beat King. And it felt so lackluster. It felt so lackluster. And yes, King has been beaten, guys. I guarantee you, when you get to the end of next chapter... the start of next chapter... it's going to say King the Wildfire has been beaten as well. So, pathetic. Absolutely disgraceful by Oda. Really disgraceful. Both these fights... and this is something I've got to talk about now. Just summarizing both these fights. Both Sanji versus Queen and Zoro versus King were fights that were already planned by Oda, definitely. 100%. The moment we got King and Queen's designs... we automatically made the assumption that these were going to be Zoro and Sanji's opponents. So them fighting Zoro and Sanji is not like King versus Zoro or Sanji versus Queen. These fights were already given. They were a given. So when we were getting to these fights, we were getting a bit excited. Okay, how is Oda going to do this? And if I had to say, has Oda done it? He's absolutely botched it. He's botched these fights up. And I don't think people can disagree. And it's not even about, if you're a Sanji fan or a Zoro fan, and you enjoyed these chapters, fine, good to you. But for me, I'm a Zoro fan, and just because Zoro beat King does not mean I like it. It's not good. Brago Diaz is a Sanji fan, and even he said, it's just a bit, that's it, that's all we get. That's what I'm saying. It just felt lackluster, and it feels like Oda just doesn't care. And I don't want to discredit Oda, but we have to call him out. Like that's the whole point of us readers. We're here to enjoy the story, but we're also here to criticize. Simple as that. And by the way, me criticizing it means I love One Piece, by the way. So don't get this thing that I'm hating on One Piece for the sake of it. I love One Piece, but my God, has this been botched up. But the problem I have with King and Queen versus Zoro and Sanji is, it's the standing of King and Queen. And the problem is, Oda is literally copying and pasting these fights from Enies Lobby and Alabasta. Like, think about this right for a second. Zoro versus Mr. One is so similar to Zoro versus King now when I think about it. King was overpowering Zoro, but then Zoro turns the tables with a proper move and he finds a way to beat King. That's exactly the same thing as Mr. One. Copied and pasted. Kaku as well, same thing. Has Ashura, gets the W. Like, it just feels like Oda just does not want to come. And the thing is, Oda cannot be doing that post-time skip. You cannot be doing that, Oda. And the reason why is because in the post-time skip, it's been established that there is a power scaling system. There is a power scaling system to this. We know who was at the top of the food chain and who was below the food chain, or who are below those characters. Like, for example, we know that the emperors, obviously the 4 emperors, the Yonko, stand at the top. Now, there are certain individuals who can rival that. But then you have the admirals, and then you have Yonko commanders. Like, we have a system where we know where certain characters are. And the thing is, in the previous arc, Luffy, who is stronger than Zoro and Sanji, went up against an opponent who has a lower bounty than these two, and you would roughly say the same level as these two, I would say. Like, I don't think Katakuri's like a cut above King and Queen. But they're all around the same level in my opinion. And Luffy was having the time of his life. Like, he was getting obliterated by Katakuri. And this is in the previous arc. And Zoro and Sanji are weaker than Luffy. Now granted, they may have power-ups, but having those power-ups is definitely not going to be enough to beat these two. Let's be real here. These are Yonko commanders. These are not just these aren't just like normal Yonko commanders. These are guys with bounties over 1 billion berry. These are guys who are Kaido's right-hand men. So for Oda to make them look stupid, it doesn't set a good tone for this arc. And to be honest, this arc is lacking tension. It's lacking so much tension because Oda is just getting rid of all the beast pirates just like one by one. Now, I want to hope that there's a theory that I saw this video by Mr. Morge, another YouTuber. He said that maybe that all the beast pirates, the ones which have been defeated, they're going to get back up again and they're going to show their awakenings. Now, I would love that. But do I have faith in Oda as a writer now? No, I've lost faith. If this happens, then I will take the biggest L on my forehead right now. My forehead's not that big, but you get the point. I'm going to be taking the biggest L on my forehead, right? If that's the case. But I don't have faith in Oda to deliver this. Oda's not really good at when it comes to fights, especially post-time skip. He wants to get things over and done with quickly. You know this. He's been saying One Piece has to end in 5 years. This is proof. So I don't have any. Yes, to answer anyone if they think what I think is going to happen, then they're done. They're all done, and the only person remaining is Kaido. So Kaido's the only person remaining, and I don't even know if Kaido is. I mean, it looks like Luffy's going to beat Kaido just the way like Luffy beat Lucci, and Oda's going to think it's okay because Enies Lobby was a popular arc. Enies Lobby was a popular arc because of its own unique things, not just the fights. I think the fights weren't even the best part of Enies Lobby. But for Wano, an arc that's been built up since the start of the post-time skip, has it lived up to the hype? I would say no. Because everything from Punk Hazard, from Zoe, from Dressrosa, they've all been leading up to this arc, this war with Kaido and his crew. So to make these fights very lackluster is disappointing. Like, it's very disappointing. And to not even make any of the Straw Hats lose is disappointing. It's just, I don't know what Oda's doing. So anyway, yeah, that's my whole thing. If you don't like it, then if you don't like what I have to say, then go home. Simple as that. Because that's the whole point. We're here to talk about what we like, but we're here to criticize this as well. We gotta criticize this stuff as well, guys. This is not right. It's not right. You can't be setting the tone for this arc and making everything go downhill. Because what has gone wrong for the Alliance? Nothing. Nothing has gone wrong for Luffy and his crew. They're all still jumping around having a good time. Like, are Zoro and Sanji battered? No. Okay, Sanji fainted at the start of the chapter, so what? He still beat Queen. It didn't feel like he earned anything. It doesn't feel like anything's been complete. It just felt lackluster. So anyway, yeah, that's my whole thing. I'm gonna have a quick announcement. I am going to be doing a top 30 strongest characters for One Piece. And it's going to be by next week, hopefully. I'm still trying to make a list and my reasons. But I want to do that, obviously. I think there's a chapter coming out next week, so I'm going to talk about that as well. But yeah, it's good to be back. Not under the best circumstances, I'm afraid. Because I would love to say, oh, this chapter was amazing. But it wasn't. It was not. But yeah. Anyway, guys, hope you have a good day. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this chapter. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Like, do you think that maybe King and Queen were handled poorly? Do you think Oda doesn't care about anything anymore? Like, what's your opinion? And also, like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate the love. Obviously, I'm just starting up, so trying to move up the world. But yeah, anyway, peace out. Have a good day. This is Draco Sean.